Hello friends, welcome to my channel Tech IT Insights. Today I'm going to discuss about the TOGAF overview and the what is the TOGAF and the what are the ADM principles, and I will give you the overview of the concepts and the domains and the life cycle how it will works. I will going to give that. So what are the agenda? I'm going to explain the introduction of TOGAF and the core components. And the fourth is four architecture domains, architecture development methods, ADM implementation phases, architecture repository, we can say governance complaints and eighth is deliverables and artifacts. Now coming to the what is TOGAF? The Open Group of Architecture Framework, it's a globally recognized framework for the enterprise architecture point of view. Basically it's provide the structured methodology. It it talks about the architecture development methods like design, plan, implementing, and the government of the enterprise architecture across the all the organization point of view. It's the main purpose of align with the IT with business strategies. How your business model will works. It talks about the main focus on the in between the business and IT and operation lay the bridge. It will improve the governance and decision making, reduce the project risk, optimizing the enabling the digital transformations. It not only it's talk about the all the industry adoptions like telecom, banking, either insurance, government, and large scale of IT enterprises. It talks about the here. Now here core components of the TOGAF. TOGAF frameworks, the core component we can say like ADM and the content frameworks, enterprise continuum and reference model, governance frameworks. So in each phases, I am going to give the brief how the ADM will works. What are the content frameworks? It's talk about the deliverables. Enterprise continuum is how your repository, which means that your assets, the product of the company, the foundation of the organization, classified with the systems, how your enterprise continuum will refer. Now, it talks about the reference models. Now, coming to the reference, the how your standard your company is following. Ensure that architecture development align with the enterprise strategies, architecture brand complaints and review decision making. Now, four architecture domains, B dot. So these are the main, we can say, architecture main domains. One is business architecture, data architecture, application architecture, technology architecture. This we can say like a B dot integration model. So how the four pillars we can say TOGAF enterprise architecture point of view. How it is integrated with this all four model it driven here. Business architecture, define the business strategies, how your business strategy, how your organization works. If you see the how your business capability of mapping, organization structure, and how your value of the stream, it talks about the business architecture point of view. Now coming to the data architecture, how your data assets, it talks about the data assets, data management, and the legacy of the data models and data governance structure. Here data entity model and data flow. Now it, and third is application architecture. If you see here, it describes the structure of the interaction of the how application support to the business process, like application portfolio, integration pattern of these applications, how you are integrate with your APIs with the different systems. It talks about the application architecture point of view. Now coming to the technology, this is a very important when you are applying your business strategy with your latest technology, how your infrastructure will support, how your components and the server, the middle layer and network elements, and how you are adapt your cloud platforms. It talks about the, how your AI application architecture, AI models, AI agents. It talk about the technology. So these are the very important four architecture domains. Now coming to the, as I said, this in the first phase, ADM life cycle. The ADM life cycle is a very important, we can say like methodology. Is methodology of ADM life cycle is a TOGAF very important when you each phases has what is the it will define. First, I will give this here the main definition. I'm going to explain the each phases how it will works. Then what are the main of each phases input and output will works. I will go into details on next video. Now, first understand the definition of the ADM life cycle. Now, one is preliminary phases. It talks about the preliminary phases. The purpose of prepare the organization structure successfully artifacts projects define the principles how your project will works. That are the primary phases. You should understand the how your organization perspective is, it works. Now the phase A, first phase A is talk about the architecture vision, set the of here architecture vision. It is scope of constraint of the create a architecture vision, the approve the approval of the process, how it is architecture vision, it will, we can say like architecture vision point of view. Now we can say B dot, we can say business architecture, develop the baseline of that to be architecture business architecture point of view, analyze the gap in your roadmap of the component, how you are going to business model you are going to take to the roadmap of the uh, next phase, that will talk about the business architecture. Now see, information system, it's how you are develop the data application architecture, support to the agreed business which you agreed with the business architecture visions. Now, D is technology architecture. Develop the technologies. It talk about how you are going to take your business strategy into your technology description infrastructure needed to support to the business model, data, and application. Now, as I said, the ADM phases we have to be thoroughly understand the business driven architecture vision, business architecture, data layer, how you are going in between with the roadmap of the architecture point of view, how you are going to take the key inputs of outputs, how you want to take. So as I said, if you see the key outputs, it talks about the architecture vision, statements of architecture framework, communication plan, and then if you see the business architecture, key outputs, business architecture, gap analysis you have to do, and the architecture roadmap you have to plan. And the the outputs of the information system, it talks about the data, application, architecture, data, and app roadmap. And now coming to the technology, architecture infrastructure roadmap has to be defined here. Now, E. So, how importance of the E frameworks of the opportunity solution? So, the opportunity solution adopt the develop the practitioner solution here. How you are going to create a comprehensive of your blueprint of the how you are going to take the solution in the giving the uh, business and technology and how you are going to deploy the solution. It talks about the primary implementation and migration strategies. Now, migration planning. It is address the how to improve the baseline to be target architecture by the finalizing implementation and the migration planning of your prioritize the projects, assets, talk about the access the cost and benefits and risk. You have to do analysis on the migration planning, define the transition of the architecture point of view. You should do the migration planning here. Now, implementation of governance. Here, the key input how to provide the implementation of the project confirmation artifacts of thoroughly. You have to review the governance complaints of the review documents, then design the review and go for the approvals, accept the handling and the complaints of assets of the contract. How you are going to take here. Now, H is last phases architecture change management. This established procedure of the from A to G, how your change management, new architecture changes in after replying to the your products and the evolution of the business, the monitoring the business. It talks about the technology change, change management, and the manage the change request and the update the architecture repositories and improve the life cycle of the product behavior. Here it talks about the, so here the key principles, a central of the point here, requirement management operation. It's a center of all phases. It talks about the here ADM life cycle here. Now, now coming to the knowledge management of the very important architecture repository structure. We have seen the domains, ADM phases. These are the fourth of the very important repository concepts of the architecture repository structure. Now, coming to the architecture Metamodel is one of the key component repositories. Ar- Architecture capabilities, architecture landscape, we can say standard information basis, libraries, governance log, requirement repository, solution landscape. It's a very important each meta model and the repositories. You have to refer the thoroughly important of the each components of repository structures. Now, enterprise architecture governance method. Here it talks about the. I will give you the overview of stakeholder concept to how your uh, projects landscape of how we implement of your enterprise architecture governance model will works here. There are architecture board, decision making body of governance, stakeholders and complaints, how strategic decision will have, and complaint the review. It's thoroughly you should review the document and the now design authority. Technical decision makes the design review expectation of the handling here. Now, complaints of mechanism, how your target architecture checklist you should follow. First, align with the capability model, comply with the data governance, follow the integration standards, and approved building blocks. We use the approved building blocks. Security of embedded with the designs. If you are, you should follow the target architecture checklist. And now implementation checklist. How you are going to methodology you are implementing. Deviation of the document. If you need deviation, you will find get for the approval. Architecture contract signed. Standard follow. Risk management places. Traceability maintains. Here we should follow here. Deliverables, artifacts, building blocks, content architecture. We see the deliverables, artifacts, building blocks. Deliverables, formal contractual specification, output of the ADM phases. Example, architecture vision, architecture defined documents, architecture roadmap, implementation, migration planning, that has to be there. Artifacts, work products, describe the how you are going to do catalogs, matrix diagram and process flow. You should define the artifacts. Building blocks. The building blocks do type of ABB, like BB, we can say like reusable components. How your deliverable component here works here. You should be the catalog point of view. You should building blocks. The TOGAF is enabling the enterprise transformation. If you provide the comprehensive approach, let's talk about the strategies alignment, reduce the risk, better decision, and digital transformation. These are all the global frameworks of the TOGAF frameworks you have to follow. Now I will give the complete of how your the overview of the all the concepts which I have discussed. Now the you should understand the, if you see the introduction of the definitions, the main concept core definitions, governance, preliminary phases, deliverables, repository, risk management. Should understand the industry standards, TOGAF, and the ADM cycles widely adopted across the organization. As I told you, the core component of TOGAF, like architecture, content model, governance, continuum, has to follow. And the four architecture domain, which I already explained, domains, the business architecture, data architecture, it talks about the application architecture, technology architecture, how it describe the importance. The enterprise architecture governance ensure that project alignment with enterprise strategies. 100% strategic alignment, high reduce the redundancy reductions, optimize the direction, optimization direction of the risk management. The preliminary phases objective is define the principles, enabling the governance, identify the stakeholders, define the scope of the here, the mapping of the architecture landscape. Let's talk about the architecture stages and focus baseline, the achieve the architecture complaints. So you should be familiar with this definition and terminology when you are going to give the standards of the architecture framework. This one of the more important is TOGAF repository structure. It's how your organization assets and traceability repository across the assets, including the landscape, reference libraries, standard libraries, knowledge based of the versions, the impact analysis of the current system, and architecture change management. Now, technology evolution, how your latest AI agents, how your landscape of the incorporated your technology in the organization, how your latest business strategies, you should adopt the business strategies, regular updates. You should be remain with these industry standards and to drive the successful with the TOGAF, leverage the achieve of the sustainable digital transformation and we should capable of architecture challenges across the enterprise concept here.